Ezekiel grew up in a small, one-room house that seemed to sag under the weight of years of use and the cold nights that crept through its walls. His family had little, and he learned quickly the value of hard work. At a young age, he rose before dawn to help his father with whatever work they could find. With calloused hands and a determined spirit, he embraced the grind, day after day, pouring his strength into the dream of a better life. As he grew into a man, Ezekiel kept his sights on a future that held more than what his past had offered. He envisioned a life where he could build a home, a strong and sturdy one, a place that could hold the warmth of his family and the security he had always longed for. But along the way, a troubling habit crept into his heart, one that he didn't even notice at first. Ezekiel became enchanted with the lives of others. He admired the successful men who seemed to have everything he desired: big houses, fast cars, prestige. He would follow their lives closely, looking at every detail of what they owned and how they lived, and he became convinced that if he could just mirror their achievements, he would find satisfaction. When he wasn't working, Ezekiel's thoughts drifted to men who seemed to have it all. He started to measure his worth against theirs, letting their lifestyles and success shape his vision of himself. Over time, they became his idols and seen figures whose lives cast shadows on his own aspirations. He felt a strange emptiness when he compared his modest progress to their apparent success, and soon his hard work and ambition became less about building a life rooted in his values and more about chasing the lives of others. Years passed, and Ezekiel eventually succeeded in building his dream house, the one he had worked for since he was a child. It was spacious and beautiful, with a view of the hills where he had spent many hours working as a young boy. But as he sat on the porch, overlooking the fruits of his labor, he felt a deep hollowness. The satisfaction he had expected didn't come. No matter what he achieved, he always saw someone with more, and each time he felt less. One day, while working in his yard, Ezekiel's elderly neighbor, a quiet, humble man named Samuel, approached him. Samuel had a modest house and seemed to have little compared to what Ezekiel had built, but he carried himself with a peace that Ezekiel had long desired. "Your house is beautiful, Ezekiel," Samuel said, smiling as he looked at the home. "You've done well for yourself." "Thank you," Ezekiel replied, his voice carrying a hint of the discontent he felt. Samuel noticed, "But it seems that something still weighs on you." Ezekiel hesitated, then said, "I've worked so hard for this, but somehow it's never enough. I keep looking at others, and it always feels like I'm falling short." Samuel looked at him, a quiet wisdom in his eyes. "I spent many years feeling that way too. I thought I'd find joy by measuring myself against the world, by taking note of who had more and what I lacked. But then God reminded me that I was building my life on someone else's foundation, and that kind of building always leaves you empty." Ezekiel looked away, uncomfortable but intrigued. Samuel continued, "When we set others as idols, we take our eyes off God's purpose for us. We stop building for the glory of the one who made us and start building to mimic someone else. We try to measure up to men when we were only meant to seek God. That hunger, that feeling of not enough, it won't go away until you put your trust where it belongs." As Samuel's words sunk in, Ezekiel felt something in him shift. He realized that he had let his journey be defined by others' lives, instead of listening to the still, small voice that had guided him as a boy, the voice that whispered of a purpose beyond status or wealth. From that day forward, Ezekiel changed. Instead of looking at others, he looked to God for direction. Letting gratitude replace comparison, his work no longer felt like a race but like a calling, and his heart was finally at peace. Ezekiel understood now that when you place others above God, you will never feel whole. True fulfillment came not from mirroring another man's journey, but from building his life on the foundation that God had set for him. Only in that foundation did he find rest.
God's word teaches us how to not to have idols. He teaches us how to always put his will before our own. God's word teaches us that he's a jealous God and you can't serve two masters. And sometimes we get so caught up in life and the hustle and chasing dreams that we idolize these things and we forget the will of God. We forget God's will that he has for our life. We forget our true purpose and what we was put on this earth to do. God's will is the only thing that we should be chasing. It say let his will be done. When we put idols and we idolize people and we put people in the position of God, that leave us feeling empty, lonely, always wanting more. There's so many downsides to having idols and worshiping people and putting people on pedestals. You never know what these people are doing. You never know what these people do to get successful. You never know the things that they willing to submit themselves to just to have money. They go against their morals. They go against the grain just to say they're successful. And that's why God say don't worship these people. God's words say don't put these people above him. You don't know what people do, what they sacrifice just to have the good looks, just to have the cars, the money. And in all honesty, they still feel empty. They still feel lost because the will of God is not over their life. They still searching for more. So while you looking up to these people and thinking that they have something or all their life is going in a way that is so amazing, not even knowing the things that they did to get that success. They didn't walk in rooms that you would never walk into because you have morals, because you have a God that will not allow you to subject yourself to anything for fame or success or for $1. So you humble yourself and wait for his will. But a lot of people don't do that. They see social media, they see fame, and they think that's all what life has to offer, but not even understanding that it's a price to pay to live that life. But the biggest price that was paid was when Jesus died up on that cross so that we could live and have life, so we could understand God's will for our life, our purpose. So having idols and looking up to people is not all what it might seem to be. You don't know what they worshiping. You don't know who they praying to get those things. You don't know. So, moral of the story is best to put God's will first and put the idols to the side. Don't put people on a pedestal before you put God's word on a pedestal. Or just don't put nobody on a pedestal but God's word and his will for your life. Because having idols, it's not what it's cracked up to be. You don't know who you serving. You don't know what you're inviting into your life, into your mind, into your mental by following these people. But invite God's word into your life. He's a jealous God. Only serve him. No other gods before him.